Everyone always asks me, why did you go into plastic surgery? I had no intention of going into plastic surgery.
Sounds like you had some kind of preconceived notions about plastic surgery. What shifted to have you kind of fall in love with this practice? And I've even heard women say that's cheating.
Yes, they're concerned. I'm really worried. I have kids. Am I being too selfish? Should I even be doing this? I've had patients that have come in and they're worried because their mom or their sister or their friend is not for the surgery. Everyone has their own opinion. And my personal opinion is
I mean, we've talked a lot about surgery, and I know that you not only are a surgeon, but you have a whole med spa. What are some of the latest technologies that you're offering within your office?
instead of filling patients' faces, it's more about stimulating the collagen to be produced. So there's biostimulators, there's variety kinds of combination with the estheticians and injectors. We're able then to create this beautiful treatment plan.
For a surgical procedure, you can also have your esthetician roll in her laser machine into the OR.
Yeah, it's absolutely not. Just like you say, Halo Moxie, microneedling with radio frequency. Yeah, any of those procedures, erbium, CO2, we use it all. We have all the different technologies here and makes it really nice. Patients are, gosh, I wish I could have been just little pain medication or some little IV medication like Twilight. I'm like, oh, well, guess what? We'll make that happen. So it's our office. Being ethical is one of the most important thing in my practice. And that's something I learned from my father. Always take care of your patients like your family. And that's one of part of our mission and values at AG Aesthetic Center, because we're not here to push. We're here to listen and come up with the best plan based on what the goals are. So if I see something that doesn't need surgery, then the first thing is to have the patient understand that you don't need surgery. You already look great.
How has the world of social media influenced your industry? I know it's all over social media, and half the time you can't even believe what you're seeing. Is that real? Is this true? Is this photoshopped?
In terms of what it has done for our consultation process, it's made it a lot more difficult because patients now come in wanting to look a certain way because they see it on social media. But one thing everyone forgets is
Today's guest has been named one of the best plastic surgeons by Newsweek magazine, both for breast augmentation, eyelid surgery, liposuction, and tummy tuck. His name is Dr. Alan Gabriel. He's an MD and FACS. Dr. Gabriel believes confidence is the truest form of beauty, a principle driving his work as a board-certified plastic surgeon. Renowned for pioneering pre-pectoral breast reconstruction, he has shaped the field through groundbreaking research, numerous peer-reviewed publications, and lectures at premier conferences. As former chief of plastic surgery at the Peace Health Southwest and clinical professor at Loma Linda University, he has mentored countless surgeons while advancing patient-centered care. Dr. Gabriel co-founded the Pink Lemonade Project, empowering breast cancer survivors with holistic support. Leading a thriving practice and medical spa, he blends artistry with innovation. For Dr. Gabriel, every surgery and mentorship moment is a chance to restore confidence and elevate lives. Dr. Gabriel, welcome to the show.
thank you, Katie, for having me.
You know,
Excited to be here.
I'm excited to talk to you. I've actually wanted to talk to you for a really long time because I think what you do is extremely fascinating. The world of plastic surgery, there's so many different mixed emotions and feelings. And as a child of the 80s, I've watched this industry kind of grow and evolve. And recently I was on your Google Maps pin. And when I'm looking for a product or a service, I go read the reviews there. Dr. Gabriel, you have over 500 five-star reviews. What would you say is resonating with the patients who walk through your door?
Well, Katie, first I got to thank my patients for taking the time to review our services. We can't make every patient happy, but the ones that we can make happy, we truly appreciate what they do for us. And they really go and highlight uh, our practice. And I think for every patient that walks through the door, it is important that they feel welcome. They feel like home. Do you remember the show? Cheers.
Yeah,
Uh,
I do.
I can't remember the song, and you don't want me singing, but the bottom line is when everybody knows your name when you come in, I think that's
Yes.
part of the song, but I
Yes.
can't honestly remember the song, but that's what we want. We want patients to feel like
Mm,
this is their home. It's a safe area for them to come and talk to us, feel respected no matter who they are, and more importantly, have a place for them to sit down and really start talking to us about what is it that's bringing them to the practice and what are their concerns are.
mm.
So it's really important to us.
Well,
Here's
I think people might be really fascinated to learn that you were an Armenian boy born in Iran. And tell us what that was like growing up in a, foreign land that is at war and how that has kind of formed and shaped the way you view the world today.
It's interesting because yes, you're absolutely right. As an Armenian and a Christian, growing up in a country that was in war, and that time during the Iran-Iraq war, it was difficult. And my parents decided that for my future as a male, I needed to get out of that country. So at age 11, they shipped me out. They shipped me out to Europe, Austria, and that's where I went next. And that wasn't home either. I ended up
What does
having to
that
learn.
specifically mean? They shipped you out? Like, you were 11,
Well,
so
they
what did that
I
actually look
was
like?
I was 11, so for me to not be drafted in the military as a young age, and there was a limit on the age when you can actually travel outside of the country, and it was decided by my mom and dad that they would make the sacrifice and have me go stay with my uncle in and my grandma in Austria in Salzburg. So during the summer when we went to visit, and that came up, and they brought it up to me, and I said, "Fine, I'll stay here if it has to do with my future." So I stayed behind, and my mom and sister went back home to Iran, and I stayed with my uncle and grandma. I didn't know the language. I hadn't learned German, so I had to go to school and learn the language. So it was pretty interesting. Have you, I'm sure you've been in situations where you go and you're in a totally foreign country, foreign language, and all of a sudden, if you're living there, you really have to know the language and to start moving forward, especially if you're going to be going to school.
Yeah, I can't even imagine at such a young age being, in a lot of ways, probably on your own. And your father, you mentioned your father, he was a very well-respected cardiologist. What are some of the things that he shared with you and taught you as somebody who was a practicing physician?
My father, uh, who passed away now 5 years ago on August 10th, just so 5 years and 3 days, taught me a lot of things. And one of the things that he taught me was to always keep moving forward and always educate yourself, because he always said no one can take away any education from you, but they can take away everything from you, the clothes you're wearing, the car you're driving, but no one can take away what's in your brain. And that's why it's important that you continue your education. And those are uh, really the recommendations that I always followed. And he always told me, you treat everyone, doesn't matter who they are, with respect and as your family. And I had seen that. I had seen it with his own patients, how he treated everybody. So that always, as a young child, stayed with me. And I knew what I had to do. I had to learn. I had to learn a new language, and I have to keep moving forward because my parents made a very big sacrifice for me to leave a country
Mm.
that was in the middle of a war.
So you're a young boy in a foreign land. You don't speak the language. You're away from your mother and father. At what point did you end up in America and heading towards medical school?
Well, after 5 years of being in Europe, I'd learned the language. I'd finally found friends. I thought I was actually doing well when my dad was visiting me and said, if you really want to go to medical school, I need you to go to United States. And I looked at him. I said, What? I just learned. I finally have friends here and I've learned the language. And he said, well, if I ever had the opportunity to have gone studied in the United States, I would have done it, but I didn't. He studied in Europe. And so he recommended I move on. It's time for me to go. I'm 16 now, and it's time for you to move on to the next part of my education. So that's what I did. I got on a plane, landed in LAX exactly on August 13th, 1989. And today's actually August 13th. So
Oh,
that brings back a lot of memories on landing at 1 p.m. in the afternoon at LAX, not knowing the language again by myself, and my aunt and uncle waiting for me outside of the immigration. And I came in with a student visa to go to high school or finish my high school.
wow. How did that feel once again, kind of starting over in a foreign land, not knowing the language, still being so young? One of my boys is 16 right now, and I can't even imagine having to send him to a foreign land just hoping that he can figure it out. How did that feel?
Well, I had one goal in mind. That was to get into medical school. I had decided that. And all the sacrifices that my parents had made for me and my family, my uncle, my grandma, other aunt and uncles. I had an amazing family supporting me throughout. I was gonna make it happen one way or the other. So I remember landing, not knowing where I was going, and not sure if you've been to LAX on an international flight, but it's pretty daunting when you've never been and you land. Now you have to keep walking. I kept walking and following the people. I had no idea where I was going, but I just kept following everybody else. And then when stood in line, I think for over 3 hours, because I had come
Mm.
in with a student visa, and and I had an Iranian passport. So that student visa and Iranian passport, both of them right away, was not the easiest to get through immigration with. They had to ask me a lot of questions before I was able to get through that next step and actually get through immigration. But it
Mm.
was definitely eye opening for me as I entered the United States.
So you have this drive, this mission, this passion to get yourself to and through medical school like your father. He had kind of had this wish or almost regret, it sounds like, that he didn't have a chance to go to medical school in the US, and he really wanted that for you. So you had this kind of opportunity placed in front of you. And as you're in medical school, how did you decide very specifically that you wanted to specialize in plastic surgery?
Well, that's a great question. Everyone always asks me, why did you go into plastic surgery? You know, I had no intention of going into plastic surgery. One thing I did know is I was going to do surgery when I entered medical school. I just love the technicalities. That the anatomy is fascinating to me, and I wanted to do surgery because I wanted to be able to fix something very quickly if something was wrong. Well, then I had the huge opportunity to spend a month in a research lab, and I've always been interested in research. It's important to me because we want to keep advancing our field. And this particular research position was in a plastic surgery lab. The only reason I took that position is because that was the only position left for me to do research in the summer after my first year of medical school. So when the medical school told me that's the only position that you can do research in, so well, I'll just take it. I'm not interested in plastic surgery, but hey, I'll go learn. So I started understanding what plastic surgery was like, and I had a uh, time and opportunity to really also observe a couple of surgeries, but really deep down understand what it is that we're trying to achieve, and in terms of healing, in terms of blood flow for our patients, as well as uh, really the pharmacokinetic portion of it. And this is a little too technical, but basically what I was trying to understand is, are there any supplements that we can give for better healing, or other ways of looking at how we can expedite healing in our surgical patients. And that's how I really started. So
Okay.
when that started, it was time. I knew it then. I said, this is what I want to do because there's so much unknown in plastic surgery, and this is where I want to get into. I would have never thought I would go into the field. I fell in love with the field and started doing more and more research. And I got very fortunate, got into a residency program, and then got into a cosmetic and breast program, and it was the best things. Those were some of the best years of my career.
Hmm. It's really interesting to hear how you wanted and knew you wanted to go into surgery, but it sounds like you had some kind of preconceived notions about plastic surgery. I'm curious, like, what was that maybe misconception of the industry and what shifted to have you kind of fall in love with this practice?
Back, this is now we're talking 1997. And in 1997, 1998, really plastic surgery wasn't discussed much, I don't think. And whoever was having plastic surgery was hidden. And if they were hit and it was hidden, it wasn't the best outcomes. Everyone kept saying, oh, that person had plastic surgery, doesn't look good, or it's all about the cosmetic aspect. But the problem is, no one understood that there was so much more to plastic surgery. I think people are starting to understand it now. It's not about what we can do to make the person look better, but it really
Mm,
goes down to what can we do to make the person not only look better, but also feel better about themselves. Going back
mm,
to establishing their confidence, to going back to establishing their vision and their inner beauty, all those little areas that I had no idea about. People think plastic surgery is superficial, but absolutely not. That's what I learned during that period of time. And there's so much more to plastic surgery in terms of reconstruction, healing, the blood flow, understanding all those little details and what we can do for our patients. And because of it, we can also innovate.
mm. So it's the opportunity to innovate, the research, the human anatomy, the opportunity to grow and develop as a professional surgeon. It sounds like kind of the Venn diagram of all of those things coming together is what had you go from judging cosmetic surgery and plastic surgery to really seeing the value in it. And one of the things that you just shared was how it's not superficial, and you could start to see the maybe emotional impact that surgery was having on some of your patients. Tell us the story of somebody who maybe you've watched go through that experience of thinking and wanting superficial results, but then maybe experiencing the deeper emotional results.
You're correct, Katie. I mean, I've seen this the last 17 years since I've been in practice, and it's all the time, every day in clinic. I see it, and it gives us so much joy on seeing our patients finding their confidence again. Everyone that walks through the door are beautiful in their own way. And we have to recognize what that is and what is it that they're missing? What is it that they're not seeing that we are seeing? And
Mm,
it really gives us the joy to work with them. One of the stories that comes to mind is a patient who never, this beautiful patient that walks in, I never would have thought that she's even close to looking great. She didn't even accept it that when I had her stand in front of a mirror, she couldn't see it. And
mm,
it took me a long time working with her and having her understand that she already looks amazing. Yes, there are some areas we can address, but she needs to understand how good she looks. So when we actually address those areas, she's only going to look better, but hopefully she's going to find that confidence again. And it's those little things that I've seen. I've seen patients get different jobs, be in different relationships, move on, come in with a big smile. I've seen patients come and talk to me with their hat on, never look at me in the eye during the entire consultation process and early on during the surgery, after the surgery. But a year later, different person walking through that door, big smile, dressed very differently, a different job, maybe a different relationship. So all those things have become the result of plastic surgery. That yes, it's not superficial. I'm sure you could imagine that we all have areas that we don't like. We all have our little weaknesses that we think about. Well, sometimes
mm.
those weaknesses are exaggerated, and sometimes plastic surgery can really help our patients on getting over those weaknesses and really seeing how amazing they are. And sometimes it doesn't take much.
Wow. As, somebody who's lived through the '90s that you were talking about and kind of the judgment, maybe the shame and the hiding
Mhm.
around plastic surgery at that time and kind of the whisperings that people would make behind somebody's back, I've personally watched and probably even been a part of some of those conversations before where like, "Oh, she got a mommy makeover." And there's this tendency to cast judgment on somebody who does that, and I've even heard women say, "That's cheating." What do you say to those individuals who are in that camp of shame, whether it's shaming themselves personally or shaming somebody else who has chosen to have surgery, and like, is it cheating?
But, Katie, everyone has their own opinion. And my personal opinion is plastic surgery plays a huge role in helping patients see their inner beauty and confidence and get more confident. So is it cheating? Absolutely not. Because there are certain things that the body will go through that you can do all the exercising, all the dieting in the world, nothing is going to change that except for surgery.
Mm,
In terms of judging, hey, I used to judge before I even did in the '90s as well. I never thought I would be a plastic surgeon, but here I am, a plastic surgeon. And for people that are still shaming other patients, stop for a second and put yourself in the position of the patients that are seeking to have some sort of a surgery. There's a reason that they are there. And there's a reason maybe the person that's shaming them would like to have that done as well. So it's really important
mm,
for people to stop and think and not shame others because everyone has a story and we're not going to be telling everyone's story unless the patient shares it. But it's not right to shame others when it's something very small that can improve their confidence. And because their confidence is improved, they're going to be a better member of our community. So instead of shaming, we should be high fiving them. We should be joining them and supporting them in moving forward. And that's
mm.
really teamwork on everybody. I've had patients that have come in and they're worried because their mom or their sister or their friend is not for the surgery. My answer to
Yes.
that is, who are you doing it for? Are you going to be the one going to sleep every night and thinking about it? Then whatever is going to make you happy, as long as it's appropriate. I'm not saying just go have any surgery, but as long as it's appropriate and it's needed, then yes, you should have the surgery. Because
Yeah.
that's what's gonna make you happy, and it's no one else's business. It's your own body. You can make the decision and have the surgery.
So
It's really that
beautiful.
simple.
It really is that simple. One of the things that you're known for is this personalized medicine, but that's not where you got your start, right? You were in corporate medicine for a time. Tell us about that experience and kind of what catapulted you into this place where you can give people very high level, personalized, high touch care, medical care.
Great point because yes, I did spent some time in corporate medicine, and sadly, our healthcare is headed that way. There's a lot more corporate medicine specialties out there than we want. So because of it, care can change, and it's not always for the better. For me, it was time to come into private practice because I wanted to take care of the patients the way I wanted, and personalized is the key word. I wanted every patient to feel like when they come to our office, it's a safe environment for them to come into, be able to share anything with us. And patients do. We hear everything, but they remember that we're guided by HIPAA rules and we cannot share it with anyone else. So it's a very protected environment for them. And we ask them how we can help them. I want to, I want my team, and my team is always there, go and try to support our patients no matter what issues they're having. Some of them are not surgical. So we try to find avenues. You couldn't do that in corporate medicine, or you couldn't spend that much time in corporate medicine on managing these. So my team, yes, it's a very large team because we want it to be very personalized. We want every patient to feel like they're always being taken care of and we're always available for them 24/7. I don't want a patient to ever have to call our office, have to push prompts to find somebody and then leave a message on someone to pick up and we're able to get back to them. Because that's
Wow.
really what patients are calling for. They're not calling to wait 4 hours or 5 hours to get an answer when it's a little bit more urgent.
Yeah.
So it's really getting back to them as quickly as possible is also important to us.
Wow. That's an incredible level of care that I'm sure corporate medicine hates, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not efficient, and they want to probably be more like a surgical factory and have their doctors really just focused on the surgery, but you are looking at them as a whole individual, and you have a whole protocol for pre-surgery. You talked a little bit about kind of supplements and prepping people for surgery, and then I know aftercare is also really important to you. Tell us kind of that process for you and how you think about this holistic view of surgery.
That's a great point. For our team, it's really important. And when patients come in, we make sure that they meet as many people as possible. Yes, we have a large team for this particular reason. So when patients come in, I always remind them that choosing the right surgery is 25% of the entire procedure. Then the procedure is anywhere from 25 to 30%, and the aftercare is what matters. And we aftercare is so important, and we follow our patients for a very, very long time. And that's because we are trying to catch if there's any issues or any concerns, and we want to always be available for them. So the aftercare in terms of making sure all the vitamins are taken or they're getting appropriate massage or lymphatic drainage or physical therapy or any type of laser treatments to help with their surgical scars. Anything we can do to help them, that's what we're here to do, to make sure that whatever they invested in, we can continue supporting them and making it better.
I mean, you just talked about lasers and supporting them in their healing with the scars. Tell us a little bit about some of the latest technologies and how you can help mitigate the scars that your patients are experiencing.
I wish we didn't have to give patients scars. I think that's one of the biggest issues that we always face. Patients will ask, do I have to have this surgery and will I have this particular scar? Sadly, sometimes yes, because we don't want to jeopardize the shape we're trying to create because we want to do a shorter scar. But what can we do is during the surgery, certain things that we do to help with the scar and then, afterwards with the vitamins, with the tape, with the scar gel, and then lasers that we automatically provide to make sure that we can hopefully improve some of the scars. It's not gonna happen for everyone because there's genetic predisposition to some patients. I'm sure some of you have seen scars that are a little bit thicker, or some of you may even have them, and if you do,
Mm.
s it's just the surgeon didn't do anything wrong. It's just the way your body heals. So there's things that we try to work through, see if we can make those even better.
Walk us through the process of someone who's maybe been thinking about considering surgery. Take us through that process of them walking through the door and the first conversation you might have with them, and then who qualifies and is a good candidate for surgery.
Well, when a patient is interested in surgery and they've already booked a consultation and they see us, they come and see our team first. They start by obtaining the medical history, given some basic information, and I come in and meet them and examine them and come up with a good plan. And that's when we have a really heart to heart discussion. Why are you doing it for? Um, is this going to give you what you want? And really coming up with a good treatment plan. Sometimes the answer is no surgery because anything that we do is not going to give them what they want, or maybe they already look amazing and we don't need to do a single thing for them. And we need to have them just realize it and see that. And I always tell them,
Wait, are
just,
you saying you really do tell people like you're great and you don't need surgery?
oh, yeah, frequently. I've sent people, I said, just go tell whoever sent you here or go tell them anyone says anything to you again. Just tell them your plastic surgeon said you look absolutely amazing and there's not a single thing I can do to make it better.
I
So
love
please
this.
go.
I
Yeah.
love
So
this.
go own that. And that's what I'll tell them is go own it. Because the
Yeah.
bottom line is if you own it, When a plastic surgeon has told you you look amazing and there's nothing else I can do to make you look better, that means you look amazing. And guess what? Go own it and be the confident woman that you are and go out there and shine, because that's basically what we're wanting for all our patients.
In the
So
near term, I can imagine that that level of honesty and sending somebody away, I mean, that's income and revenue that your office didn't get in that moment, but what does it do long term?
l- well, being ethical is one of the most important thing in my practice, and that's something for I learned from my father. Always take care of your patients like their own your family, and that's one of a part of our mission and values in at AG Aesthetic Center here by with all of our team members. And I hear it all the time that none of your staff ever pushes me towards a certain procedure, because we're not here to push. We're here to listen and come up with the best plan based on what the goals are. So if I see something that ca doesn't need surgery, then the first thing is to have the patient understand that you don't need surgery. You already look great. And I feel better. My team feels better because, yes, we're sending revenue away, but the number one still remains. We are taking care of the patient just like their family. And if I'm going to do that for my family member, I'm going to do the exact same thing for my patient. No
You
questions
know, s
asked. And that's very clear. That's very clear at our office. And patients have said that, you don't want me to have surgery. I'm like, no, just go out. She goes, I have all this money saved. I said, well, go on a nice vacation. Where do you want to go? And bottom line, especially if it's winter, I'm like, "Go on to somewhere, go somewhere in the Caribbean, go somewhere to Hawaii, go somewhere."
Well, I read a similar story in one of the reviews about you and your practice. And, you mentioned something there, which was we listen to people and listen, ask questions, ask what they want, ask what results they're looking for. And then you listen. And it really was interesting how many of your reviews said just that. Like, Dr. Gabriel really listened to me. And it's, as somebody, a professional, I've worked with a lot of professional people. And it's interesting how often people show up as kind of, I'm the expert and I'm going to tell you what to do and maybe even make a lot of decisions for you. And it's beautiful to see you and your team approaching it very differently and really listening to your patients fears, questions, concerns, doubts, and navigating them through that. Do you have any more stories of maybe somebody who had kind of trepidation, fear, reservations about going under the knife? And how did you and your team help calm them down so that they could be ready for surgery?
Patients, that's a good point. I mean, we've had patients, I would say, I mean, there's good 20, 30% of patients, generally speaking, is their first surgery maybe they're having with us. And yes, they're concerned. I've never been under, I'm really worried. I have kids. Am I being too selfish? Should I even be doing this? So having a long conversation, I'm sure the patients out there were like, yeah, I'd like to have surgery, but I don't want to do it because I'm worried. Well, we've really, with the advances in anesthesiology and the techniques, it's very different than what it used to be in the past. Can is anything that we do, there are associated risks, but on a healthy person, doesn't matter the age, healthy person, the risks are extremely low. And it's important for everyone to understand that. And if they're doing it for themselves, and that's the important part, for themselves, and it's going to change the way they feel, they act around their friends, significant other, children, work, then it's worth it. I don't know what the procedure may be, but it may be something very small or maybe something larger. But the way we work with our patients is to remind them that they need to do it for themselves. And if they're not ready, they should not have surgery. But if they're ready and their only thing is the fear of anesthesia, we try to make it as comfortable as possible on day of surgery. We do give them medications when they come in, but we also play music for them. We sing with them. Sometimes we've actually danced down the hall. So there's different things that we can do to make them more comfortable. So there is definitely things that we do with our patients. We have fun. One of my patients today surprised me with a booby sock that she was wearing. She was very nervous. So she wore it, and I didn't know she had worn one. So she shows up with her booby socks. So I would have known, I would have worn mine too. But she said, "Do you remember this from 6 years ago?" And I had given people booby socks in the past. I was the original one.
Mm.
So she was wearing it today, and it really that was her way of coping with it. And yes, of course, we had fun while she was wearing the sock and making her more comfortable as she went to sleep. So every person deals with it differently. Some people are very quiet, and I'm very chatty, so I will start talking to them. I try to make them laugh, and if it doesn't work, then there's always medication. The medication
Mm.
will always calm them down. But this is a day of surgery.
You have multiple tools in your tool belt.
We can, and I do have an amazing team that is so kind, so loving, and makes them so comfortable. And I think better than I could ever do because they're just very giving individuals in my office that are able to really make the patient comfortable. And we see it. We see it with they come and talk to me afterwards in surgery, how amazing it was to have this person or that person be with them and be with them in the after surgery. It's just so rewarding and makes me so happy to see my team doing what exactly we want to be doing is really taking care of the patients the best we can.
I love it. How has the world of social media influenced your industry? I know it's all over social media, and half the time you can't even believe what you're seeing. Is that real? Is this true? Is this photoshopped? How has that influenced you and your industry? And how are you and your team approaching your social strategy?
Great question. I never had a social media platform until I went to private practice. I was told if I'm going to be in plastic surgery, I need to have a platform. So I did. I'm not a big fan of social media and per se in terms of uh, putting my personal everyday life on there, but in terms of practice, is I look at it as a website, as a site to give patients more information, whether if it's something for them to laugh about or educate them or some of our results. And that's how I view social media. In terms of what it has done for our consultation process, it's made it a lot more difficult because patients now come in wanting to look a certain way because they see it on social media. But one thing everyone forgets is some of those images are touched up, or could be majority of them are touched up. There's even before and after images that are touched up. Now you can even have AI generate an after photo from a before photo. So there's a lot of things that are going on that is really affecting on how a patient will see themselves and wanting to achieve certain results. It makes me sad when patients are comparing themselves on social media because every person is unique and special. Social media is just a distraction. So it's really important for a patient to be able to look at themselves in the mirror and decide what is it that they would like to see done. But more importantly, look at themselves in the mirror and say, yes, I'm a confident, beautiful woman, and that's really what we want them to remember, whether it's before surgery, but definitely after surgery. So social
Mhm.
media as a distraction it's become a really difficult for us in plastic surgery to be able to remind them that what they're seeing is not real. And it's a
Yeah,
challenge.
I can imagine that it has people coming in with this very unrealistic expectation of some result or outcome that they expect you to create. And they're forgetting that they're a human being and that, there's blood flow to consider. There's muscle, there's skin, skin that got stretched out and has stretch marks. There's all kinds of things that you have to think about and consider to help them have an optimal result.
You're absolutely right. There are human beings, and that's such a good term that you just used because the body goes through a lot of changes. The body goes through not only through the hormonal changes, but there's weight gain, weight loss. There is mechanical changes that will occur. With aging, there's more changes. So not every person's genetics are going to be favorable for a great outcome. So we just have to remember that and not compare so much on social media. I'm sure you've seen that where people are looking at themselves on social media. I want to look like her, but why? How do you even know what that person is like? They could be the meanest
Mhm.
person in the world. So we have to start thinking about and valuing ourselves more instead of valuing that person on social media.
100%. So you mentioned that you've been in private practice doing personal medicine. What is it, 6 years at this point?
In private practice, yes, that's six
Okay.
years now.
How has that affected you personally as a surgeon? And is there sort of any sort of transformation or change that you've witnessed in yourself?
Oh, I love my job. So that I can tell you, I'm so much happier.
Mm,
Keep in mind, when I went to private practice, COVID happened. So a lot of things happened during my transition from corporate medicine to private practice. And everyone kept asking, aren't you sad you left corporate medicine? I'm like, oh no, the happiest I've ever been because I can do what I want to do for my team members. And that was an important part during COVID to take care of my team members when we had no work. And the second part was take care of our patients. So I've been the happiest I've ever been in my career being in private practice because I've have an amazing team that we have hand selected and they follow our mission and values. They don't follow the mission and values of a corporate medical group or a center. So it's
mhm.
very different. So it's extremely rewarding. And we see it in our patients. We see how they hang out with our patients. We see how they discuss fun things with our patients after surgery, 2 years out, 10 years out. We see some patients that have come, some of them from my prior practice in corporate medicine, they still come and see us. I have patients who are 15 years out come and see us. So it's really rewarding to have those patients follow us into our private practice and we continue seeing them and seeing them now have grandchildren or kids or some of them are married. It's just really nice to see that.
I mean, we've talked a lot about surgery, and I know that you not only are a surgeon, but you have a whole med spa that offers things like injections and lasers. What are some of the latest technologies that you're offering within your office? And what kinds of results are you able to get people?
This is actually a very hot topic in terms of when we go to the med spa side. Yes, we have a very strong med spa with amazing esthetician and injector. I inject as well. So one of the goal is to approach the patient again holistically. And some of the advances in technology have been really skin tightening modalities that we've seen that we're utilizing more and more. With that, also on the injection side, instead of filling patients' faces, it's more about stimulating the collagen to be produced. So there's biostimulators, there's variety kinds of them that we utilize here at our practice. But in combination with the estheticians and injectors, we're able then to create this beautiful treatment plan that complements each side as well as really prepares them if they need to have any surgical procedures. The nice thing is, and I remind my team all the time, is we have everything on the table. We don't, my team doesn't have to force anything on the med spa side. If the patient is looking for a surgical option, I don't have to do anything on the surgery side. If the patient is looking for small changes, that can be corrected with on the med spa side, whether injections or lasers. So having the complete, really complement of all the different sections of the treatment plan available is really what makes it, I think, important for the patient to feel heard, as well as have an excellent treatment plan for them and see if they're going to have surgery, injections, or laser treatments, or maybe all three.
You've talked a lot about how important it is to you to be able to practice and care for your patients in an optimal way, right? The way that you know that is best for them and to help them. And part of that is you have built out an OR in your clinic, which I can only imagine is not a simple process. And yet, what has that kind of unlocked or opened for you and your team in servicing patients?
Having an operating room in our office has been a life changer for all of us because I can be operating in between the surgeries. I can be seeing patients. If a patient is here, I just go in, say hi, when even though they're not expecting me to come and see them. And it more importantly allows us to do it when we're doing facial procedures or even body procedures, allows the estheticians to come in and do some of the laser treatments that can be a little bit more uncomfortable in the operating room when the patient is sleeping. So it
Mm.
really has opened up a lot of different ways that we can take care of our patients, and it's been one of the best things we added.
Okay, so while they're under anesthesia for a surgical procedure, you can also have your esthetician roll in her laser machine into the OR while she's down, give her, I don't know, halo, moxie, CO2 on her face or chest area, and
Right.
then that way she's taking advantage of the fact that she's under and she's already going to be down healing. That's incredible.
Correct. Yeah, it's absolutely not just like you say, halo moxie, microneedling with radio frequency. Yeah, any of those procedures, erbium, CO2, we use it all. We have all the different technologies here and makes it really nice. And especially if we know they're having a procedure and a surgical procedure and they're thinking about any laser treatments, I'll be the first to tell them, oh, when we just do it under anesthesia, you're already under, you won't feel it. They may be a little warm afterward for probably about an hour after they wake up, but generally speaking, they're gonna be a lot more comfortable under anesthesia. But
Mm.
even let's say if they're not under anesthesia, one another thing has opened is nurse sedation. We can actually sedate our patients while they're having laser treatments as long as they have a driver. So there's different things that
Oh,
we can
get out.
definitely do. Yes. So I mean, we learn all these things, Katie, from our patients. The patients are, gosh, I wish I could have been just little pain medication or some little IV medication like a twilight. I'm like, oh, well, guess what? We'll make that happen. So it's our office. We'll go figure it out. We have our nurses are trained to do that for laser treatments. If we need an anesthesiologist, our anesthesiologists are amazing. They take care of all our patients and we do it on a day they're here. They can help us too. So there's different ways we can schedule a patient and make sure that they're well taken care of. And it's to what level of treatment they're expecting.
I want to address one of the things that you brought up previously. You were talking about somebody who maybe has hesitation and reservation about going under surgery and feeling like, I have family. I'm going to be away from family for a while. I have young kids, and even the investment component, because this is an investment. And one of the things that I've heard from friends is kind of these Instagram famous doctors are charging absurd fees for their surgeries, like upwards of $200,000 for a procedure that shouldn't cost $200,000. And one of the things that you and your team do is you create so much efficiency that you're able to give people this really high standard of care and results, and at the same time kind of meet them at a very reasonable price point. And sometimes there can be kind of questions or hesitation around making that sort of an investment in yourself. So, what are some of the things that you've seen people do who want to make that leap, who want to make that investment in themselves, but they're maybe struggling to get there? How can you help them make a decision on whether or not they should move forward?
That's a great question. We run into that all the time. Do they want to spend it on themselves or are they going to spend it on something with the family? It really comes down to what they're trying to achieve. And if they have made up their mind that this is what needs to happen for them to feel good, to move forward, then we work with them to help them understand that this is an important step and have a great team that will work with them if there's any financing that needs to happen so they can take those steps. And even if it takes a year for them to get prepared, w-
Mm,
during that period, we're still talking to them. We're working with them to trying to get to that point where they're comfortable. But first things
great.
first, they have to be able to understand that they're making an investment in themselves. As long as
Mm,
they know that and they're doing it to make sure that they can move forward and they're doing it for themselves. That's very important, unless they're
okay.
doing it for somebody else. As happened, Katie, where patients have come in and after long discussion, asking a certain question many different ways, I
Mm,
usually then suspect that they're not doing it for themselves or they're not even ready. And if they're doing it for somebody else, that's not the person who should be having surgery. And those are some of the people that we say no to.
okay. Okay. But it sounds like your team is equipped with ways to help people with financing directly through your office.
Correct. So there's different finance programs that our team works with no interest for, I think, 2 years. There's different things
Wow.
that the programs are set up to help with. So there's definitely ways we can help patients with, and that's the beauty of, again, being in private practice, where we can make decisions and work with the patient directly and be able to offer some of these uh, programs.
Wow. Dr. Gabriel, you're like a one-stop shop. You've got
What we want to
you
be.
you've got
Well, that's what we want,
surgery.
Katie.
I mean, it's really incredible what you've done and what you've built, and I think especially given the story of your history and how the odds were stacked against you at such a young age, and yet you chose to move forward. You chose to walk into the dark, move to a foreign land. I can only imagine the difficulty, the struggle, that maybe even the lack of confidence that you would feel in a foreign land, and then here you are helping people who might be in a season of life where they feel like they're in a foreign land in their own body.
Mm.
And, sometimes I think as a woman myself who, we go through lots of hormonal changes throughout the years. You grow humans and then therefore your body shifts and changes. Sometimes it can feel like a man just doesn't understand that. And it's really interesting to hear you talk because even though you're a male, you tend to have this kind of, ability to really relate and understand, and I think, maybe it's because you have an incredible wife and you're also a girl dad, and so you're surrounded by women. Your team is women, and, like, even a lot of the companies that you work with are very women focused. Why is that important to you to be able to really, I don't know, relate to women, understand women, meet them where they're at? Why does that matter to you?
It's very important, and you're absolutely right. My wonderful wife, who I've been with over 30 years, we met 30 years ago. Yeah, a little over 30 years now. She has taught me a lot. And yes, I have my beautiful 11-year-old daughter who I've learned a lot from as well. I have a 33-year-old stepdaughter I've learned a great deal from as well. So
Mm,
all those things that come together, I've learned a great deal. And one of the important things that you said is being in the foreign land, for everything was foreign to me, and lack of confidence. And I do see that in my patients when they feel foreign in their own body and the lack of confidence they have. So if I can do anything to change that confidence, like I was able to overcome my issues and move forward, that's really important. That's really rewarding for me and my entire team. So
mm.
it's funny you bring that up, because that is exactly what I believe is driving me always to see my patients become more confident, because that was what I was struggling with for so many years, from country to country and language to language.
If you could walk into LAX and somehow incredibly be face to face with 16-year-old you who in 1989 on this day was landing in America, not speaking the language, probably filled with excitement and fear and anticipation of what is about to happen in his life. If you could go have a conversation with him, what would you tell him? What would you share with him?
Wow, I have no idea. I can say this, be like, wow, you have an incredible journey ahead of you, and it's going to be very bumpy and rough, but you will
Mhm.
get there. You just have to believe in yourself and move forward. And that's true with any of us. We have to believe in ourselves and move forward. There's going to be obstacles in everything we do, but we have to have an amazing support team, believing in ourselves and then moving forward. And that's what I would have said to my 16-year-old self back in 89.
That's beautiful. Dr. Gabriel, the name of the show is called What's Working Now. And one of the things that I think is really fascinating about you is you're very involved in research. So, what's working now in plastic surgery research?
Well, Katie, that's a great question, because there's so much happening right now in the field of plastic surgery. And that was one of the main drivers I went into plastic surgery when I did my research uh, summer when I was in medical school. And what's working now is I have the opportunity, and I've been honored to help with research programs now at Vanderbilt as well, as I was named clinical professor there. They gave me an opportunity to
Mm.
work directly with research fellows. And it's been very rewarding to work with some talented, brilliant medical students and residents, and realizing that our future is really bright with the information that these young future physicians are trying to answer. And the important thing here is I'm able to work with them, to guide them, bring up clinical questions that we see in our practice in surgery that they can help us answer since they have the time and they have the research time and the facility to do it in. So it's a really great time
Mm.
in our field, and I couldn't be more excited to be working with these talented individuals.
That's really reassuring to hear because, sometimes certain fields, especially education, it's like this theory that doesn't necessarily have real or practical application. So, hearing that you're working with the researchers to take the case studies, the kind of problems and issues that you're facing today in your practice, and then sending them off to go research and develop solutions. That's very reassuring to hear. And, as a product designer too, I watched as people would develop and create a product that just didn't have real application in real life. And so that's another thing that's interesting about you is the device manufacturers, they design their yearly meetings around you because they value your input and your ideas in the devices that are then used in your surgery. Was that kind of I mean, it sounds like a big part of your mission and maybe even how you would say like what lights you up when it comes to your work is being at that forefront. So what does it mean to you to be involved in those kinds of conversations?
I absolutely love being involved in those conversations because we're able to apply what we're seeing today and recommend changes, and that can directly affect patient care on our operating room table in the near future. And I really have learned a great deal from my mentor, Dr. Maxwell, who really has opened up those doors, has made me see things very differently than I ever had seen before. And that was during my fellowship, my breast fellowship and cosmetic fellowship that I spent with him in Nashville. So it really, well, let me take a step back. I think I've gotten very fortunate in my training between Loma Linda as well as my training in Nashville, Dr. Maxwell, on learning what I know today is really comes down to how fortunate I was to get in those training programs with the support of mentors, family, wife, to supporting me through all these difficult times to get through the programs and actually finish and be able
Mm.
to now help patients with what I've learned. And we continue to learn, just like you said, our field is evolving. What we're doing today may not be the same 5 years from now. What I'm doing today is not the same as I was doing 5 years ago because we learn a great deal. And that's also the reason we follow our patients for a long time. If I'm doing something today that's gonna work well next 5, 10 years, then that's a good thing. If I'm doing a surgery that's not gonna do well the next 6 months, then why are we doing the surgery? So we just have to make sure that whatever we are doing, it's working for the patient long term. And the only way
Mm.
to know that is to follow the patients. We want to see them at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. Make sure that they're still doing well and they're happy with their results. And what we've done is holding.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I've heard you say is, sometimes people will see something on social media, they can go to a doctor and convince them to give them this surgery when maybe immediately they get a result, but long term it actually doesn't hold or it doesn't work. Can you share an example of something like that? Because that was quite fascinating to me.
Absolutely. You see a lot of different posts on the perfect thing and on social media on operating room table. When a patient is laying down and they're on the operating room table and they've cleaned them off with water or whatever, it's really shiny. That's a very different look And then when the patient stands up, 3 months from
Mm,
now or 6 months from now, when they've actually the swelling has gone down and we can actually see what's holding, you can put something together and it will hold on the table, no problem. It will look good because it's very fresh. There's a little bit of swelling involved, so it looks even better. But 3 months from now, things are going to look very different. The scar is going to look very different. So the shape is going to look very different. So those are the things we want to be following. And we
mm.
do see patients that come in and show us a picture, and that patient may be 10 days out of surgery or 1 month out of surgery. That's not a good enough result for us. We want to be 6 months, 1 year out to see what we've done is actually holding and actually looks good on the patient.
Mm. If somebody has been thinking about or considering surgery, whether it's for 2 months or 2 years, what would you recommend on how that person could get started?
First of all, I think that person should start thinking about who are they doing it for? Are they doing it for themselves? And if they are, they can get on the American Society of Plastic Surgeons or the Aesthetic Society site and search for a board certified plastic surgeon. It's very important that they seek out a board certified plastic surgeon because that's when you know you're getting a real plastic surgeon for the procedure that you're seeking out for. And then once that's been done and you've chosen a few people to see, we always recommend 2, 3 consultations because you're not going to end up liking every single plastic surgeon you see or because your personalities may not match. There's patients that we see and our personalities don't match. And, that's not a good fit. No matter how much we can help that patient, we may not see eye to eye or our personalities are not a good match. So it's important for you to feel comfortable, not only with the surgeon, but also with the staff, because sometimes it's the
Mm.
staff that you will see more than the surgeon.
You're located in Vancouver, Washington, which is right next to Portland, Oregon. Do you ever have patients who travel for procedures?
We do some. It's usually a friend of a friend, or somebody that we have operated in the past that has moved away has referred us a patient. We work only by word of mouth, so we don't advertise anywhere. And that's how we're able to get some out of town patients that come and see us.
Okay, but it does work. Somebody can come from out of town and be on your OR, and how much time would that person need to heal before they can hop on a plane?
It depends on the procedure. Sometimes we like to see them around us for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It all depends on what surgery we're doing. It's really important to us that they have a way of coming back to us in the future as well, because we do laser treatments on their scars. We would like to see them. It's the aftercare that's still so important to
Mm,
us that we'd like to see them for.
yeah. Throughout our conversation, you have said words like purpose and mission. Um, as we come to the end of this conversation, what is your driving force and what is that mission that you're on?
My driving force are those smiley faces that walk into my office after surgery and how confident they are. When I see those patients coming in and they light up and how happy they are or how they're dressed differently, they're talking differently, and they're smiling, that's truly my driving force. And I think that's a driving force for our entire team and really gives us a purpose to go see the next patient to do the next surgery. And we always ask our patients, please, if you have something funny to say or you have a cute picture, send it to us because that's what makes us all move forward and excited, but also gives it an opportunity for other patients to see it's okay to have surgery. It's okay to take
Mm,
the next step because when they see what our patients have accomplished, they excite other people. They're an inspiration
mm,
for other people. So it's so important that they share with us their experiences. And this is the one time I will say social media is great, Katie. And when we
mm.
post their photos, their real life photos, where they're sending us what they're doing in their life every day. So it's really fun to see that, and we encourage
Love
it.
it. Yeah, I love it. This kind of celebration of the win and radiating their confidence.
Yep, absolutely.
I love it. Dr. Gabriel, it's really fascinating to hear your story, your origin, kind of those experiences that were very formative in such a early phase of your life, and how you've taken probably the difficulty of those experiences and you've really brought tremendous meaning and purpose to your life. And I just want to thank you for being in this conversation, for being so real, so raw, so honest, and dare I say, vulnerable, and sharing that part of your story.
Well, thank you, Katie, for having me. It's been fun. It's been an honor being on this, and I didn't think I would share so much from my past, but here we go. We did it.
That
Yeah.
that's me. I'm
That-
just as you know, I'm just super curious. So I really appreciate you doing that.
yeah. Thank you for
Ev-
having me again.
yeah, you're welcome. And for everybody who's listening, this is What's Working Now. Thanks for listening to the What's Working Now podcast. If you found today's episode to be interesting, be sure to share this with a friend. And if you are looking to level up your organization as a CEO, I'm going to invite you to join the Now newsletter. This is a weekly newsletter. I send it out on Fridays. I tell personal stories, talk about what it's like to build a significant business while raising a family, homeschooling kids. And I even share case studies, very timely, relevant situations where I go into detail how I am helping entrepreneurs navigate, lead, and build incredible organizations. You can get all of that behind the scenes information and more inside the Now newsletter. I've got a link to it right now in the show notes, and I will see you in the next episode.